I'm Shahar Azani, and in the news, the global Jewish community and Israel. These are challenging times in the relationship between Israel and diaspora Jewry. A few weeks ago, it was Israel's Consul General in New York who lamented Israelis not caring enough about their brothers and sisters around the world. And this week, an op-ed in the Jerusalem Post, where newly appointed, ultra-Orthodox, might I add, Minister of Diaspora Affairs of the Israeli government, Omer Yankelevich, called for world Jewish solidarity. She emphasized that for her and for her ministry, it is not a meaningless slogan, we truly care, she writes. Which brings me to today's segment dedicated to Our Common Destiny. Our Common Destiny is a new initiative aimed at strengthening global Jewry by linking Jewish communities worldwide to a shared set of values. It was founded by Genesis Philanthropy Group and the Israeli Ministry of Diaspora Affairs under the auspices of the President of Israel. It seeks to unite the global Jewish community around our commonalities, ensuring a thriving future for the Jewish people and humanity, as well as to convene Jews from around the world to help shape a collective vision for the Jewish future. To discuss this initiative and more, I am thrilled to have with us, all the way from Queenstown, Maryland, on JBS Today, Sandy Cardin. Sandy Cardin is the CEO of Our Common Destiny. He's also a senior consultant for philanthropy and impact at Crescent Capital, one of the fastest growing wealth management firms in the United States, and a senior advisor to the Charles and Lynn Schusterman Family Foundation, an organization he led for 25 years. Sandy is a frequent presenter and panelist in global forums on topics related to Jewish development, catalytic grant making, innovative program building, Jewish identity, young adult engagement, and Israel. In short, everything we truly care about. Sandy has written extensively on these subjects, and his new book on the history of the Schusterman Family Foundation was just recently published. Sandy has served on many international, national, and local boards. He recently stepped down as chair of Leading Edge, a partnership helping to build a robust talent pipeline for Jewish organizations, and was also an instrumental leader of an international body known as the Westbury Group, which focuses on Jewish life in Europe. A resident of Queenstown, Maryland, Sandy is a magna cum laude graduate of Harvard University and was elected to the Order of the Coif upon receiving his JD from University of Maryland School of Law. He's admitted to practice law in Maryland, Florida, and DC, as well as before the Supreme Court of the United States. Sandy, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Quite an impressive career you have, and all dedicated, it seems, to the communal Jewish world. What attracted you to it? What made you embark on this path?
Well, it turns out that, among other things, my mother was born in Ramat Gan and made reverse aliyah to the United States with her parents when she was 2 years old. And so Judaism and Israel have always been central to my life. And in fact, even more than central, they've been essential. And so naturally, participating in the Jewish community and giving back to the Jewish community was something I was taught from a very young age, and I'm very proud to be a member of the Jewish community. I'm very proud to be a Zionist, and I'm happy to contribute in any way that I can. More than just contributing, it's also we were instilled, all of my siblings and I and our family were instilled with a sense of responsibility for other Jews and to help secure, ensure a safe and secure Jewish state.
And we are for sure lucky to have you. Let's talk about Common Destiny. What attracted you? How long have you been with Our Common Destiny?
Yeah, I started with Our Common Destiny about a year ago. I was approached by Ilya Salita of the Genesis Philanthropy Group and told about the idea behind Our Common Destiny, which had been in formation for several months. And I was very excited at the prospect of working on a project that was engaged all of the Jewish community, whether Israeli or diaspora or Orthodox or Reform, and regardless of gender or geography, something that was very positive oriented, that was going to talk about what unites us and what connects us, not what divides us. Far too many conversations, as we know in the Jewish community, focus on the things that divide us. And too few conversations are reminders of so much more that unites us and connects us. And the idea of engaging in a project along with the ministry and the government of Israel and under the auspices of the president was too good an opportunity to turn down, to try and, again, contribute and fulfill my responsibility to the Jewish people.
And to be honest, how many endeavors do we see in the Jewish world that actually bring so many people together? We're so focused on different lanes, we forget the highway and its direction. And
sure. Although I want to hasten to add that our common destiny is one of several of the endeavors undergoing right now that are underway right now. We have great partners, and there are lots of other people in the Jewish community who share our concerns and who are trying to do their part in connecting the Jewish people. So we are proud to be a part of the overall efforts throughout the world to unite the Jewish people. Ultimately, they're all important and they're all meaningful.
Absolutely, and hope to have more of that as a result of this interaction and beyond. Maybe for our viewers who don't know what our common destiny is in more detail, maybe share a little bit about the process. What is it exactly? What have you done so far? And how did you go about it?
Sure. So our common destiny, as you mentioned, was founded by Genesis Philanthropy Group and the Ministry of the Diaspora Affairs under the auspices of the president. The thinking with Genesis and the ministry was, how could those two organizations that care deeply about the Jewish people, how could they address the potential fragmentation or divisions in Jewish life through their position as of influence and resources? And they decided that the way to do that was to embark on a project that would try to connect the Jewish people through our shared values and shared principles. And a number of conversations led to the thought that if we could draft a declaration, a document that would embody at least the core principles and core values with which the vast majority of the Jewish people would undoubtedly agree, because they are the core of what it means to be Jewish. And then we would take that document around the world and engage people in a conversation about it, and hopefully get them to take part in it through the crowdsourcing, that we could create a sense of a movement of Jewish unity and Jewish connection and Jewish pride with Israel at its core. And so those thoughts gave rise to our Common Destiny initiative, and the central aspect of the initiative is this declaration. So what we did is early in 2019, we had a group of people come together and draft a document that embodies, that talks about the cultural and historical background of the Jewish people, the religious background, and then raises 5 principles, which I'd be happy to share if you would like. And then we assembled a world-class group of scholars and thinkers and activists from 6 continents, representing the wide range of Jewish thought, from religious observance to gender to geography, all kinds of things. And we brought them together in September of 2019 to review this declaration, to ensure that its words were applicable to the vast majority of the Jewish people, and then to work with us to present it to President Rivlin for his consent, if you will, for his acceptance, and then his challenge for us to take it out further to the rest of the Jewish world. That's where we are today. We are in the process of engaging hundreds of thousands of Jews all around the world in a conversation about the declaration, but really it's a larger conversation about what it means to be Jewish in the 21st century and what we all share. And through this, we are hoping that this process, we will reach and engage and motivate and inspire lots of Jews to think about our commonalities and what connects us. And we will take this document back to President Rivlin at the end of the year, hopefully for his signature. And thereafter, the text will become a basis for what it means to be a Jew in contemporary society, and for basic values with which we can all agree. So it's a foundational text of the ties that bind us.
Well, it's I can see it's quite an achievement even to get as many thinkers from the vast Jewish world and get them to agree on one statement. So just to satiate our curiosity, maybe what are those values that are instituted within the statement, within the Declaration of Common Destiny?
Sure. And the way I think about them is an acronym. I think about it as SMILE, because we know that smiling is good, and we have research that says if you smile, you feel better and so forth. So it seems very appropriate for for this initiative. So the S stands for safety and security of every Jew in the state of Israel. The M stands for a mutual responsibility for each other. I stands for strengthening Jewish identities and Jewish literacy. The L stands for being a light unto the nations, for the Jewish people to show behaviorally and morally and ethically what it is to lead a good life and to care about the common, our common people, our civilization. And the last, I cheat a little bit with the E, it doesn't exactly fit, but we'll call it emerging markets. It is for the Jewish people to help in a real-time way, in a tachlis way, agriculturally, medically, technology, finance, how we can take the skills that we have within our community and share them with society as a whole to help make civilization better, indeed to help repair the world.
It's all, I can't agree more with you on the smile. I've always been a staunch supporter of that initiative. And the more we see this, the easier the way is paved for collaboration, even within our community. So exactly. Thank you for that. That's a great way to lead the way. Let me be a fly on the ointment for a minute and ask you, how feasible do you think this initiative is? We know of so many frictions and fragmentations. We, the Jewish community has always been so good at that kind of diversification. What do you think we can do through this declaration, through the statement, through the mission that you're leading at the moment?
Well, look, look, there's no silver bullet. And the Jewish people, there have always been conflicts and divisions within the Jewish people. But the good news to take out of all of the conflict is that everyone who's engaged in that conflict cares about being Jewish, right? So you're not engaged. If you don't care, you don't fight. So the fact is that we have millions of people who care deeply about being Jewish. They may have different views and different perceptions of what it is to be Jewish, but that's fine. Let's put that aside for a second, and let's accept for the fact that millions of people care deeply about being Jewish. So if we can strip down to the basic elements, why do they care? Why does it matter so much? We'll come back and address the way in which they observe their Judaism, and the way they think it's appropriate to be Judaism. But the 5 principles we're talking about are fundamental, that we believe that the vast, vast majority of Jews agree with these values. And so we know that there's something that unites us. I think part of the challenge that we're trying to address in Our Common Destiny is we actually have very few statements that talk about the keys that unite us. We start at Jewish and then we move on. And we immediately get into the kind of Jew you are, or your ideology, or your religiosity, or your theology. But we don't go to the basic of what it is to be a Jew in the 21st century. We have to define that for ourselves. And so as we do that, we recognize, as I said, that the vast majority believe in these fundamental principles. And what we hope that this conversation, this project will do is ground us with a sense of connection, and then we can begin to have all the other conversations. At the end of the day, we're not all going to agree, right? We know that, but it's okay. You don't always agree with your spouse or your partner. You don't always agree with every member of your family, but you love them and you care about them and you're connected to them. That's the kind of imagery we would like the Jewish people to embrace, so that we recognize first that we're all connected, then we can have the conversations about what divide us and different perspectives, and learn to respect and to tolerate and to understand those different perspectives, knowing we all come from a shared background, or with a shared and common, and then work together to build a shared destiny.
Well, it's very much in line, Sandy, with the coalition building scheme that has been so infused into our very being as a Jewish people, not only relating to the political constructs of the Israeli government, but even going as far as the First Zionist Congress, when you think about what Theodor Herzl tried to do by bringing a coalition of Jews from all over, from whatever faction, whatever school of thought you were. And I want to I want to put a special focus on one thing that you're doing now, which from my experience as a former Israeli diplomat is very, very strong. You chose to embark on this journey of this shared common destiny, not just as a Jew. You chose to do it along with and hand in hand with the state of Israel, under the auspices of the president and along with the Minister of Diaspora Affairs. I think that says a lot about what you want to achieve and the centrality of Israel, to which, of course, we couldn't be thankful enough. And I wanted to ask you about where Israel is in the scheme of things, because we've seen the connection with Israel to be a bit on the forefront of many disagreements, especially thinking about the younger generation, the political situation, and yet you chose to put Israel there, thankfully, and I think very importantly, but maybe share a little bit about that point.
Well, look, Israel is very, very important, right? It's an essential component of the Jewish people. And I think it's important to separate the government of Israel, the political structure of Israel, with the Jewish people of Israel. There are plenty of things with which I am sure lots of people in the world, including many Israelis, disagree with the United States and so many of the Jews of the United States and their political perspectives. But that doesn't mean that we should discount or ignore all the Jews who live in America. And the same way in the case of Israel, what we're talking about here are the Jewish people. We're not talking about a political construct. We're talking about the Jewish people. And more than 50% of the Jewish people live in Israel. So to have a global sense of what it means to be a Jew and to ignore Israel and even to downplay Israel's significance or the significance of Israeli Jews would be foolish. It would also be dishonest, right? And so I will tell you that having said that, there was never a moment that this project that Israel was not ever considered to be a full partner and a full element of this, just as every Jewish community throughout the world would be. There are others, from your perspective, I understand you're asking the question with regard to Israel, but there are others who say, why are you bothering with these small communities in Europe or in the former Soviet Union or whatever, where there are just a few Jews? Like, why would you spend your time? It's because every Jewish life is precious. Every member of the Jewish people is important. And we benefit as a Jewish people from the mosaic, from what we learn from every element of the Jewish community. And so every Jew is important. Jews in Israel, of course, are especially important because it's our homeland. Israel is our homeland, and it's an essential part of this project.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let me say this. When you think about the future of this initiative in order to expand hopefully an understanding among Jews all over the world, and especially with Israel, how has been your connection, your dialogue with the Israeli establishment? How important is this from their perspective, in your view, and from your experience?
Well, I think it's very important to some and less important to others. And I think, first of all, that's true with every issue. But this whole question of sort of Judaism, what it means to be a Jew and how different it is for so many Israelis from Jewish people in the diaspora is an important element. So I think that there is a significant part of Israeli Jewish society that sees this as a very important initiative. Others have a little more convincing to do of that the diaspora community is important. You remember for years and years and years we had the negation of the diaspora. And so there are still remnants of that exist. It's not nearly the same today. The situation's very different, but nonetheless, that lingers a little bit. So now, as we're seeing that we're moving away from that to an embracing the concept of legitimate Jewish life, if you will, wherever you choose to reside, is very, very important. So now we have that, at least the basic framework. Now we have to build mutual understanding. And I think it's also very important for critics of this concept and others to suggest that the Jewish identity piece is one piece of most Jews' identity, right? And there are lots of pieces of those identities that are not the same if you live in Israel or you live in Australia or South America or in America. And so we're dealing with people here. And so one of the things we have to understand is it's not as simple as to have just a Jewish conversation. When you reach out to someone, you may be talking about Jewish values and Jewish principles, but you're also talking to somebody who has a whole range of identities, and you need to respect them and reach them on that level. So I think that there's lots of receptivity to this idea in Israel. We have been thrilled with the degree to which the ultra-Orthodox community, members of the ultra-Orthodox community who are willing to engage with us, recognize this as an important initiative, the extent to which very secular, the most secular of Israeli society, understands that this is important, and we look forward to building on those relationships and reaching as many people as we can in Israel and throughout the world.
And I can attest to the fact that Israelis, we can get immersed in so much that's happening around us that we forget about our brothers and sisters just across the sea and in various places around the world. And this initiative, like many others, is an amazing reminder, not only for the essence of what it is, but also for the sake of introduction, of getting to know us. And it's not only a one-way street, I always said, for getting to know Israel around the world in the mission of public diplomacy, but also bringing a world to Israel, and most essentially the Jewish world, because nothing is stronger than that bonding. Let me, for the interest of our viewers, I want to ask you two quick things. The first one is, how do you see the next phase? You were talking about the crowdsourcing of taking the our common destiny to the masses, and then maybe tell our viewers, what do you want them to do? What they can, where can they learn, and how can they take part in taking that next step in this unique endeavor?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Well, in terms of the crowdsourcing of the declaration, what we're asking everyone to do is to take a quick 1-minute survey that they can find at ourcommondestiny.org, and they will see where they can click on and take a quick 1-question survey that asks them to rate for themselves the 5 principles that I've mentioned. Which resonates more with them? They're all important. They're all going to be included in the declaration, but they're going to be included in the declaration in the order of the people that vote. So there's a voting part and a voice. You have a voice, and your voice matters, and you'll be able to help influence the declaration. So we encourage you to do that. The voting is much more, again, about the conversation than it is about the results, because the results that you change are minor, but the conversation is really important, and this is an easy way to engage people in that conversation. Once the declaration goes back to President Rivlin and hopefully is signed, we hope that it becomes a document to which people refer as they move forward with their lives and engage with the Jewish community and other Jews. We're hopeful that perhaps it's a document that can be taught in, the Israeli education system, state schools throughout the world, that can be shared in adult education programs. We're hopeful that funders and philanthropists who are doing things in Jewish community point to one of the values, one or more of the values, as the basis, as the reason that they're doing what they're doing. Why? What's the purpose of whatever the initiative they're undertaking? How does it relate to those values and principles? We think it's important for people to be able to relate back to something concrete. And then lastly, but certainly not least, it remains to be seen what the ministry, the president, and Genesis Philanthropy Group will do as the founders of this project. They have many, many resources at their disposal to see how can they help us continue to spread the message and continue to work towards the binding of the Jewish people, strengthening of the Jewish people through our sense of connection, and certainly our connection to the state of Israel.
It sounds like a great resource and a unifying ID for any educator or any interactor on a communal level to refer to a point that says, this is who I am. And guess what? It's very much similar to my brother in Belarus, in Tel Aviv, in Ramat Gan, or in Moscow.
Exactly.
How do people, do they need to, in order to engage with this, it's going on your website and take the poll?
Yes, go to ourcommondestiny.org and take the survey. We will also be reaching out. We're working with organizations all over the world and trying to work through them to engage their members or their constituents or their stakeholders. Sometimes the message will come straight through as Our Common Destiny. Sometimes it will be in connection with things that those organizations are already doing. We're hoping through our partnerships with many of the leading international organizations to reach as many Jews as possible in every corner of the earth. In Israel, we'll also be holding some public participation conversations. You'll be hearing more about that for our Israeli friends. And we have a whole range of activities that we plan to undertake to try and bring the opportunity to as many people as easily as possible. So we hope to deliver to your inbox or whatever it may be through an organization. We hope to deliver a link to the survey, so it's very easy for you to do. The survey is very quick, multiple choice. It'll take 1 minute to do it, and it'll be very important to us. One, for that sense of participation, a sense that you have a voice and your voice matters. And to your point about the president, to demonstrate to President Rivlin that this is really an idea that's embraced by hundreds of thousands of Jews around the world, and to help him lead us in the next moments of and years ahead for building a very, very strong Jewish people.
That is fascinating. Thank you so much, Sandy. I can't thank you enough for being with us, for sharing your perspective, your experience, and sharing our common destiny. Your vision and work for the Jewish people are highly, highly appreciated. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you. Toda rabah.
And if Jewish history taught us anything, it is that together we stand, divided we fall. And as tough as that may sound to some of us, we simply have no other alternative, lest we squander this incredible time in history of Jewish Renaissance that we're experiencing, not only across the world, but alongside the reemergence on the world stage of our beloved state of Israel. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and to all I say, stay safe, stay healthy, and smile. I would like to thank our director, Sloan Copeland, JBS's managing director, Dara Golub, our technical manager, Michael Paley, transmission manager, John McDevitt, and to our producer of In the News, Carol Lilienthal. For JBS, I'm Shahar Azani. Until next time, see you soon, and lehitraot.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more. And we're especially pleased to remind you that thanks to a generous matching gift from the Cayley family, every new or increased dollar you donate to JBS will be worth double to JBS. Simply visit the JBS website at jbstv.org and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please, indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check to JBS, P.O. Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.